Welcome. Good afternoon, everyone, to our Inoco webinar. The topic today is assessing the environmental impact of a cacao drink through all LCA stages. I'm Hélène Soré, I'm one of the co-founders of Inoco, and I'm thrilled to be your moderator this afternoon. At Inoco, we're committed to assisting grocery retailers, F&B brands, and food suppliers in accurately assessing and reducing the environmental impact of their entire food assortment. Our methodology is based on life cycle analysis, and it forms the basis of all our calculations. The choice of data, the methodology, the system boundaries, the data set you use, all of these variables can significantly influence the assessment outcomes. So to talk about these challenges, I'm delighted to introduce our LCA expert, Bernhard Wohner, Head of Research at Inoco, who will conduct a live assessment of a cacao drink. Bernhard, exactly. Bernhard is a sustainability advocate and an ex-scholar with a doctorate in science from TU University in Vienna. His PhD thesis was all about sustainability assessments of packaging. With a background in landscape planning, agrarian pedagogy, and natural resource management, he made a significant impact in various roles. First, as a sustainability expert at Global 2000, then as a researcher in packaging technology company, and lastly, as a senior consultant for life cycle assessment at Sphera. He is now the head of research at Inoco, where he continues his mission to drive innovative and eco-friendly solutions for a more sustainable future. Bernhard, very warm welcome from my side. Very happy to talk about the LCA today with you. Let's maybe have a quick look at the agenda. I will start first by introducing Inoco in just one slide, and then we will dive straight into the topic. From data collection to categorizing and mapping and translating and processing, Bernhard will guide us through all the life cycle stages of a cacao drink until we have calculated together the final impact of that product. And maybe a last note before we get into the topic. You are very welcome to ask any question that you may have during the webinar. Just drop your question in the Q&A button in the chat, and we will make sure to review them at the end of the presentation. So let's get started. Exactly. So who we are and what we do. Inoco is a software as a service company providing solutions to the grocery industry to manage the sustainability impact of their whole assortment. So we basically calculate the carbon emissions of any food product throughout its entire life cycle. Today, we are 100% focused on the food industry players. So we work with grocery retailers, F&B brands, and food suppliers. Bernhard, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Hélène. Very warm welcome also from my side. Again, I'm Bernhard Wohner, Head of Research at Inoco, and my background is mainly as an LCA expert. So this is also what we will show you today. But a quick heads up, we will not show you how conventional LCA a conventional LCA of a cocoa drink, but an LCA of a cocoa drink for which we think is the future of doing LCA. First of all, Hélène already mentioned we look at the entire life cycle of a food product, and this is also what you do in conventional LCA, right? But when we talk about the entire life cycle stage, we mean it. So we will start at the agriculture, of course. We will start at the farm, at the field, and look how cocoa beans are grown, how the milk in the cocoa drink is produced. But we include all the different aspects and life cycle stages that are really part of the life cycle of a cocoa-based drink So also all the different stages that happen in the retail sector. So consumption of energy that is required to store the cocoa drink in the supermarket, but also, for example, when a consumer takes their car to the supermarket to get their grocery purchase. Of course, we also look at the packaging of a cocoa drink and all of the other products. We include the treatment of the packaging waste. We include the treatment of potential food waste. So really everything that goes into the production and consumption of cocoa drink, we include in our assessment. So you might think, how are you really able to do that? Because I mean, where do you get all of this data, all that information? You would, if I come to you and I want to have that assessment, I mean, I don't know all of that. Don't worry, we got you covered. We only need very, very basic information on a food product, such as a cocoa-based drink. Basic information that is already printed on the packaging. So this includes, for example, the list of ingredients, the nutritional content of the cocoa drink, and the product weight of the product. Yes, this is really everything we need for an assessment. But of course, this can be enriched by providing us with additional information that then improves the accuracy of the final result of the product. So I briefly mentioned already, we are not talking about conventional life cycle assessments. For the participants in this webinar that have an LCA background, you might think about ISO 14040, 4 phases of an LCA, defining goal and scope, system boundaries, life cycle inventory, life cycle impact assessment, interpretation, all of the phases, writing an ISO report of 100 pages. All of that is not required in our assessment because we have all of that automated. So we have several different workflows happening when we calculate a product. And when I say one product, I mean actually thousands of products. For us, we do that on a scale. We do not do this assessment for only one product. We can do that for thousands of products, actually, for the full assortment of a retailer. This picture might confuse you, to be honest, what is actually happening in our system. Let me show you what we are doing one by one. So in a very rough explanation, what we are doing when you provide us with the data of a food product, such as the cocoa drink, we take first the list of ingredients. And if that's not already presented in English, we translate it to English. Then we split up this list of ingredients into their separate ingredients. And we map that to our internal list of ingredients. So for example, you might spell cocoa differently. You might say not low-fat cocoa powder, but fat-reduced cocoa powder. So all of that is then translated to a name our internal ingredient database refers to. And also, usually a challenge, but not for us. The list of ingredients does not specify for most of the ingredients how much of that ingredient is actually in a product. So we see here on the left side an example of our cocoa drink. And this original list of ingredients might say partly skimmed milk, sugar, and 1.2% fat-reduced cocoa powder. So after our system transforms that, we arrive at our final internal list of ingredients that then might say roughly 90% of semi-skimmed milk, roughly 9% sugar, and then 1.2% low-fat cocoa powder. So again, there are several different workflows happening to get from the left side you see here for the list of ingredients to our final list of ingredients on the right side. Again, this happens almost fully automated, but of course, we also have internal QA processes to validate the outputs of our system. So now that we have our list of ingredients of that cocoa drink, we can proudly say that we map to a really high quality database of impact for different ingredients. In the beginning of Inoko, we relied on commercial databases. And while we appreciate commercial databases, we also ran into issues with those. Mainly that they were limited in scope. They did not provide every single ingredient in raw and processed form. They did not provide always a lot of different geographies for all these different ingredients, which is actually very important and which we'll come back to in one of the next slides. So to be able to really understand the impact of a food product, to really understand the impact of an ingredient, and to really understand how the impact differs of an ingredient between countries, we developed this database with a heavy focus on really depicting the impact of agricultural raw products across various different countries. Of course, we followed official guidelines, official methodologies, such as from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and also other methods initiatives, such as the EU Environmental Footprint. We combined all of that with the latest data on fertilizers consumption, on yields, on irrigation water, all of that goes into the production of agricultural products. And we also combined it, of course, with country-specific, such as soil, climate, electricity grid mix, and so on. So ultimately, we created a database that covers 160 different crops across 200 countries, but not only crops, of course, but also a large variety of different data sets for livestock, so for milk and meat and eggs, but also seafood, so fish coming from the ocean, but also from aquaculture, and several other ingredients such as honey, or also ingredients that might not directly come from a field, such as citric acid, for example, and salt. So all in all, we created a database that lists over 10,000 or among 10,000 of different data sets. So you might now think what to do actually with that. Again, to be very specific when it comes to the ingredients, to the impact of an ingredient in a separate specific country. So if we have the cocoa drink, we are actually able to consider the country of origin. But we can also we can also calculate the result of the cocoa drink if we don't have any information given by a retailer, for example. We have, together with our database, we built a very strong background on statistics when it comes to where an ingredient is coming from. So based on trade and production statistics, we derived averages, weighted averages for all the different ingredients in a product, so that every cocoa drink that we calculate has a certain share of cocoa beans from Cote d'Ivoire, from Ghana, and from Indonesia in there. And this is why we actually do that. This makes it very visible why we are doing what we are doing, why we go into so much detail, because the environmental impact and in this example, the global warming potential of cocoa cultivation varies greatly between countries. Again, our database covers all the different practices, all the different activities that are required to produce a crop. So we include the agricultural machinery, we include the energy use for irrigating a crop, we include the production and the application of fertilizers. All of that produces greenhouse gases or is responsible for greenhouse gas emissions. But especially for cocoa beans, what is very, very significant is a land use change. So this is this huge orange bar you see here that makes that large difference between the countries. So yeah, this shows really that it's very important where you source your cocoa beans. We are not here to put any blame on any country, but Cote d'Ivoire has severe issues with deforestation and also their yields, so their productivity of cocoa beans for a specific area is not that high. So this results in a very, very large impact for cocoa beans from Cote d'Ivoire. And unfortunately, yes, most of the cocoa beans are coming actually from Cote d'Ivoire. So this covers the raw product, so the cocoa beans at the field. But yeah.
There is a question maybe I'm asking you right now because it's about the slide. Can you explain what means GWP?
That's global warming potential. Okay. Most of us know that with terms such as greenhouse gas emissions or carbon footprint, basically. But thank you for the question.
I'm continuing because it says here the question, and since it's related to a detail of that slide, usually I don't interrupt. They said that usually the global warming potential is based on 100 years time frame, but here we show 20-year time frame. So which one do you use?
The global warming potential is for 100 years. This is why it says GWP 100. What is meant with 20 years is the deforestation or the land use change. So we look at what is the area of that crop, how much of the crop is grown in a country now, and how much was produced 20 years ago. So this is usually the time frame that is prescribed from certain guidelines. So if cocoa beans have increased in area during the last 20 years, we take that into account. Yeah. So everything past 20 years is basically forgiven. Yeah. So we have now the cocoa beans, but of course, in a cocoa drink, you don't have like the entire bean. Usually you process that into powder. So together with our large-scale database of raw products, such as the cocoa bean, we have also around 100 different food production processes that cover, for example, making a sunflower oil out of sunflower seeds, or processing a whole milk from a raw milk. And in this example, we have a process that we refer to as cocoa transformation, where you make the cocoa powder out of the cocoa bean. So all in all, you need 3.4 kilos of cocoa beans per kilo cocoa powder. But for the LCA experts, of course, we have the proper allocation procedure added, and we use mostly economic allocation, resulting in the need of 1.2 kilos of cocoa beans per cocoa powder. So all of that is fully modular. You can combine basically every food production process with a raw product, and with all these different country data sets, which gives us basically an almost unlimited number of possibilities to create a final result. We have covered now the processing of the ingredients, but in some cases, there is also a processing of the product itself. This might be not that relevant for cocoa-based drink. So when we talk about a cocoa drink, this might be just basically mixing a milk sugar and a cocoa powder. For other products, this is more of relevance. Think about a beer, for example, where you have barley, malt, and hops. Barley, malt, hops, water in a beer. For a beer, for example, the energy consumption of the overall product would be more of relevance. But yes, of course, for all the different products we assess, we also consider this product processing on top. And here, fortunately, AI is of help for us. So we have an algorithm that puts all the different food products that we assess into one of many categories. And why we also need is because in a lot of cases, the retailers don't have specific information on packaging. And we have certain packaging assumptions linked to a category. So when we have a cocoa drink, the AI would put that into the category cocoa-based drinks. And for a cocoa-based drink, we have the assumption that you need a certain amount of PET bottle to pack a certain amount of cocoa drink. And of course, you also have all of the different transports happening between all the different actors of a supply chain. So we have also here certain assumptions, how much of a product is shipped on a truck, on a ship, on a plane, be it either within a continent or between continents or also within one country. And as mentioned in the beginning, we also include the impact from storage. So we differentiate between if a product is stored just as it is on a shelf, or if it's in a refrigerator, or if it's frozen. So of course, these have also different impacts on the overall footprint of a product. And we also cover, based on the country where a product is sold, the end of life date of that product. So if the cocoa drink is now packed in a PET bottle, we have statistics in our database that say how much of a PET bottle is actually recycled in a certain country. And we take that also into account, as well as the treatment of possible food waste of this cocoa drink. So all of that combined then results in our final assessment. So we tried to be, of course, who wouldn't, as accurate as possible. And this is what we call reporting average. So with this cocoa drink, we will calculate a result of 2.4 kilos of CO2 equivalents per kilogram cocoa drink. And we also report a proxy for flag value, so meaning that everything that is related to forestry, land use, and agriculture, so 1.5 of that would come from agricultural production. But we also provide retailers with a consumer output, meaning that since we rely mostly on assumptions, if we don't have more granular data, we try to be conservative. So we have certain margins of error that we add on top of on this reporting average, that we can be sure that we do not underestimate the impact of the cocoa drink, and that was result in 3.1 kilos of CO2 ultimately, which is in our impact class a medium impact, so it could be better, mildly speaking.
Okay, Bernhard, thank you. I think, at least for me, was very clear, but it's not the first time that I see the methodology. Also, for those of you who want to maybe dive a little bit deeper, we have additional resource. On the website, we have a white paper also who explains a little bit the methodology, so feel free to download it or to check some of our previous webinar where we again went through the food impact assessment. So this is all there for you. Also, continue to drop your question. I have a question for you, Bernhard, and for the rest of the audience here, continue to drop. So we have a question here. How significant are the indirect emissions, so transport and storage, for example, compared to direct emission from production and processing? Do you have the kind of idea or?
It's a very good question. One that cannot be answered like that it applies to every single food product out there. For cocoa drink, that's more or less easy to answer. There, the agriculture is by far the most significant contributor, and all the other life cycle stages are of less relevance. But you might have certain other food products. Think about maybe a soda or an apple juice. No, maybe not an apple juice. Let's stick with the soda. Dried fruits is a very good example. Yeah. So if you have a low impact fruit such as an apple maybe, and then you dry it, then the drying process has a very significant impact compared to the apple cultivation. So it really depends on the product, but luckily our system shows you also the contribution of agriculture versus production versus transports and storage and end of life and all the different life cycle stages.
Yes, that's the beauty, that you really get a breakdown basically for all life cycle stages, and you can immediately see where the big bulk of emissions come from. Okay, I have a question, very simple, I can even answer that. So which platform did you use to measure the CO2 equivalent, Bernhard?
Ours.
You use Inoco, exactly. So this was Inoco. Another one here is, how do you ensure the accuracy and reliability of the data collected for the LCA, especially considering the variability in cocoa production across different regions or farms? So a very broad question.
Yeah, very broad, but a very good question. Let me briefly think about it. We use the latest data. We extract a lot of data from FAO-Stat, so from the Food and Agriculture Organization, from the United Nations. Again, the latest data, we rely on IPCC methodology, rely on data and requirements that are given in the product environmental footprint from the EU Commission. So we have really the most advanced and latest scientific advancements in our methodology. And also with every single step, with every single workflow, we also have, we do not only rely on the computer, you could say, but we also have manual reviews of all the different workflows that are happening until we have the results. So we really make sure that we produce high quality data.
Perfect. I don't see any other questions. So maybe I think we have nothing else. Can you go to the next slide, Bernhard? Exactly. So here we're gonna send a poll. Would be nice to hear from all of you if you find this webinar interesting and insightful. You will get the poll appearing on your screen. And yeah, if you have any other question, then please feel free to contact us at hello@inoco.com or on LinkedIn. And stay tuned for the next webinar. Thank you, Bernhard. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
Ellen. Thank you, everyone, for joining.
Bye.
Bye-bye.